Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Toxic Encounters book. So I have another topic that I want to explore. It is engaging in conversation, which is explored in chapter 2 of the book. The book is titled Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, Part 1, and it is part 1 of a 3-part series. So it's very interesting that I have noticed that we do not engage in conversation right before we enter romantic relationships. Even at the dating phase, we don't do much talking. But I think our lives in general, even if you take romantic relationship making off the table, our lives in general would benefit a lot more if we took the time to talk to the person, have a conversation, create a discussion opportunity, because it's nothing worse than getting so deep into the relationship, um, and you discovering that the person that you are with, who you are with, is an abuser. Once you are in that relationship and that slap hits your face, it's hard to get out because you've already built an attachment. You've already built some kind of false connection. You've already created a belief system for the relationship. You've already thought through how you're going to live together, how you're going to marry each other. You've built a whole fantasy around a relationship, and you haven't even had a conversation yet. And the most conversing that people do is in the bedroom. They spend more time rolling around in the bed and kissing and loving on each other and having sex with each other and getting sexually acquainted, but not getting intellectually acquainted. That you don't even know if the person knows how to pay bills. You don't even know if the person knows how to take care of himself or herself as an adult. Not living at somebody's house and paying a roommate's rent, or not living at a parent's house and paying some kind of rent. No, adult people at some point in their lives should be able to have their own apartment. It could be a house, it could be renting, but they know how to run a home. They know how to pay a mortgage or pay rent. They know how to pay utilities, insurance, food, add clothing, add furniture. Even if they are buying piece by piece, they know how to hold down a job. It's hard to deal with people who move from job to job, especially if they stay on the job for 2 years and then they move to another job. They don't have staying power because at some point you're going to have to stay somewhere, build some roots, develop there, and then you make a decision. You assess at 2 years, you assess at 5 years, and you say, I need to stay here because I need to build a more record of employment, or I just need to build record of skill, whatever it is, skill development. But having that conversation before you engage sexually is a very important strategy, because then you get to see how the person talks. You get to see how the person thinks about life. You get to see what kind of world view the person has, whether that world view is a very sound world view or if it is a distorted world view. You get to determine if their belief system is compatible with your belief system. If you have people running around saying, I want a woman to be submissive to me, but you don't believe in that, or you don't believe in it in the way that people are sort of spreading it as some kind of trend to get women to submit, and if you don't submit, I'm gonna drop you, for my preference, or just another option. If you don't agree with that, then you don't need to engage with that person, because they're not going to change their belief system. It takes a long time to adopt a belief system. You don't just automatically say you believe something. You are oftentimes skeptical of it, even if the belief system is perceived or considered false, you still have a inner critical person, inner critic that says, okay, is this really true? Am I really believing this? Does this really have any impact on me? Should I even care about this, right? There's this inner criticism that you conduct, and it could be subconsciously, but you do something like that. You don't just believe something just to believe it. And so by the time you get to a place where you are now projecting it and promoting it and marketing it, you've had some time to let it take root. And you've allowed other people's views to water that seed. So it began as a seed, and then you yourself and other people and other people's belief systems watered the seed, and then now you are out and about and promoting that particular belief system or what grew out of that initial seed. So if you don't think, if you don't believe that, don't get into the relationship thinking that you're going to change the person. Okay, he doesn't have a job right now. Here it is, he's 25 years old. He doesn't have a job not right now. Doesn't seem like he's looking for something. But when he gets with me, I just know he's going to want to work hard because he cares about me, and I know he's going to want to get a job and take care of me, and if we have a child, take care of us. But he's not concerned about doing that now. He's not concerned about getting a job for his 25-year-old self, who needs to get started in life. And really, he should have adopted some kind of planning and strategy when he was 18, 19, and 20. And so, you cannot change what he believes. He believes it's okay for him not to work at 25 years old, not to pursue education, not to pursue any kind of entrepreneurial strategy, at least, because he's waiting on someone else to take care of him. You got the same thing with women. Women will say, I want a man to have this, X, Y, Z. But you should also reflect that in yourself. You say you want him to have education. Do you have education? You say you want him to be good with his money. Are you good with your money? You say you want him to be faithful. Are you a faithful person? Those are very important qualities that if you are asking that of someone else, that you should have that going for yourself. Because you got to remember, you are still 100% responsible for yourself as an adult. Even if you get married, sure, you join your finances, you join your hearts, you join your spirit, man, your body, your emotions, you join all of that together. But you also have to take into consideration that one of you could die. And then if you're the type of person who has just been a person who hasn't worked and you just relied on your husband or your wife to be the major breadwinner, when that income is shut down because or cut off because there is um, maybe a job loss, maybe the person died, or maybe they decided to divorce you. Now you don't have any income at all coming in. And so that's important to have these conversations, because one of the most important conversations that we all need to have that we don't think about is how a person controls their emotions, how a person controls when they are triggered, how a person controls when they don't get their way, right? You have people who have come from a background of violence, and so it has passed down to them, and then they put it into play in their own lives. And so what they have been taught is that violence is the answer to the problem, whatever the problem is. Whatever, and the uh, the problem is really based upon perception. Not every situation is a problem, but if your distorted view sees everything and everyone is a problem, then you're going to design strategies to um, address that problem. And sometimes you're calling problems that are not problems. So one of another area is in the area of finances. That's always in that area. How many times have I watched these movies, these episodes of Snapped and Fatal Attraction and For My Man, And one of the partners was the partner who made the most money, who did well, kept a good job, stayed on the job, produced. And then another person was, the other partner was the person who liked to spend money. As soon as he got it, or as soon as she got it, um, spent the money, took money out of the bank account without, consensus, needed to look flashy, needed to do everything to live beyond the current means. And so you have two people in a relationship, in a romantic relationship or marriage. One is financially stable, another, and the other is not financially stable. And so, what do you do with those situations? Well, in those situations, when you get tired of the person who is not financially stable spending up all the money to the point that you have to file for bankruptcy because the house is foreclosed on, you have to, you lost your job. That means you don't, or no, he quit his job or she quit her job. So that means you only have one income, and so that one income has to sort of pay for everybody. When you get tired of that and you keep trying to tell the person that you need to act right or whatever, and then you give in to the person and take them back after you call yourself leaving, eventually that person is going to escalate. They always escalate. And when you try to put your foot on their metaphorical neck and take control of the finances and say, I'm only going to give you an allowance in a sense, then they get mad. Because anytime you feel entitled to something, you feel entitled to it, and you want to always have it in the way that you've always had it. And when you break that connection to their entitlement, they get dangerous. And that's what you see on these snapped episodes. People will have, one partner will have someone sign insurance papers or something like that, and then have that person killed just for the insurance alone. It can be $25,000, but they don't want anyone telling them what to do. Well, if you are sitting and having a conversation with someone, you will find out just how they act with money, what they think about money. So when I go through these questions, I really want you to think about those ideals that I have put forth. Those are just preliminary ideas, maybe trying to give them some, um, trying to place them under some categories. But think about them as I go through this. So I'm just going to read the questions and then add analysis. Why is it important to engage in conversation before creating a sexual relationship with a partner? What are some key questions you might ask while sitting at the dinner table? Do you think people are capable of sustaining stability? What are your present day financial concerns? How are you addressing those concerns? One thing about it, when you are engaging in conversation, even though it is a two-party exercise, it is still coming from a perspective of an individual, because you have to protect yourself as an individual, because then once you transition out of becoming of being an individual into a couple, you have to make sure that you have the knowledge base and understanding to manage yourself as an individual within a couple. So why is it important to engage in conversation before creating a sexual relationship? Because a sexual relationship creates an attachment, and that attachment could be secure or insecure. Usually when people feel secure in a relationship, they feel like they can depend on the person. Both parties have consensus about the relationship, that we are in this relationship together. It's not one person trying to push the other person into a relationship. We desire, we want to be in relationship with each other. That's usually some form of a secure attachment. Now, that is not the full definition of secure attachment. There's actually a whole body of literature on the topic. I don't want to get into that now. I might create an actual article or another video for that. But just understanding that with secure attachment, you feel secure in a relationship. You feel certainty. There's no confusion. You know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are in relationship with someone. It's not all in your head. Whereas, and so when you make love to somebody, you feel the freedom that comes with that. You feel like when the person is holding you, that it is true, and that they're not faking it, and that they're not uh, tolerating you, or they're not using your body to get whatever they need to get. So in an insecure attached situation, in terms of sexual relationship, it's really one person in the relationship trying to keep the relationship together. That one person has already has a foot outside of the relationship. They actually commit to other relationships outside of your relationship, and so there's no true security. You don't know from day to day if you are actually in a relationship with each other, because there's one party to the relationship who is just is either the person is unsure because they're truly unsure, or the person is playing games, using being unsure about something as a way to facilitate the relationship. And in all reality, he or she plans to leave the relationship. They're just not letting you in on the secret. And so if you engage in conversation, you'll be able to determine how, if that person is the type of person who is solid, has a solid understanding about adulthood, has a solid understanding about finances, a solid understanding about how to create and sustain a relationship, even if they've had some failures in the past. But they are willing to stick it out with a relationship. Whereas with an insecure situation, the person is not solid. The person has a habit of jumping from relationship to relationship. It's part of their strategy, is more along the lines of having a dating rotation. So they may have a one girl for every day of the week, and so they don't have the mindset of marriage. They don't have the mindset of thinking ahead. They live for the day. They don't plan, right? That type of person. Because when you pursue a relationship with a secure attachment mentality, your life is secure. There are areas in your life where you keep a home, you keep a place, you keep a job, you sustain your adulthood. And when you find someone who's jumping from thing to thing, no real purpose, no real strategy or direction, you run the risk of dealing with that type of person in the relationship, and you run the risk of dealing with that type of person in a sexual relationship. Because if you don't give them what they want, then they're not going to give you what you want. And so they may make uh, giving you sex based upon what you do for them financially. So it's almost like you are paying for a boyfriend, paying for a girlfriend, right? And the way that looks, it could be that you move them in, you expect him to contribute, he doesn't contribute, so he will withhold sex, right? Uh, he play the same game that maybe some other women play in other relationships, using the same context. And so it's not right on either party side, because if you're in a relationship, you didn't get into relationships to not have sex with each other. And I don't advocate today premarital sex. I did before, but I don't advocate it today. But I understand that people are going to do what they're going to do. But engaging in conversation before creating a sexual relationship is so very important. You can really accomplish that just talking on the phone. Because once you go out on a date and you get sort of hot and bothered while you are sitting at the table at the bar or something like that, you run the risk of going to a motel or returning to one of your house or his house, and then having sex, but you haven't talked about anything. You only talked about surface level things when you are sitting at the dating table. That's music, food, um, maybe a previous boyfriend, previous girlfriend, but you don't really talk about real issues. You may slip in a current political issue that is going on today. That's a good way to kind of uh, gain insight into how that person thinks. in terms of politically, but people are swayed by everything. So more than one thing. So you can't always bank on their political views. But it does say a lot about what their traditional values are, and if they have given into new age ideas. So having that conversation right at that table, or I mean basically on the phone, will help you more than merely trying to get into bed with each other, because once the thrill of the bedroom action wears off, meaning also you probably burn out because you always go full force with it right in the beginning. You have sex just beyond sex, beyond sex, beyond sex, and you think you are really connecting. You're not connecting. Your bodies are connecting, but your hearts are not connecting. And so once you do that, and then you get up out of the bed and you take a shower together, or you put on clothes and one person leaves, there isn't much of a conversation that has gone on. But if you take some time to talk to them over the phone, and you can tell if someone is into you enough to be able to have a conversation with you over the phone. If they're not trying to do that, then that lets you know right there, you don't have a true connection. You don't have anything to build upon. The only thing that you put forth first was the sex. And a relationship cannot last long without actually two parties communicating, having an actual relationship, conversing with each other, knowing about each other, getting to know each other, investing, etc. So then what are some key questions you might ask while sitting at the dinner table? So this this suggests that you have been in the relationship with each other for a good minute. You're basically dating, and so now both of you are probably cooking for each other, or one cooks and the other takes the other out, or something like that. And if you're doing that, then you're sort of having conversation there. But when you are sitting at the dinner table, and definitely it determines how many times you are sitting at the dinner table, that's really the time to talk. Is not the time to feed and eat and laugh or whatever. It's really time to talk. Where do you see yourself? What are your plans education wise? What are your plans financially? Do you plan to rent the rest of your life, or do you plan to get a house? And how much money have you saved towards that house? What's going on with your job? So you hate your job. Then what are your plans to change your job? Do you need education to help you make that transition? And education does not always have to be a bachelor's degree or master's degree. It could be just updating your skills with a community college certificate or associate's degree. But it's you moving yourself forward and in motion towards achieving a goal. Is the person goal oriented, and what has been their record of success? What goals have they set that they endured and then completed? And if they did not complete those goals, what was the setback that they struggled with? And did they assess the setback? And did they further put allocate efforts to try to complete that goal? If you got a person who likes to start a bunch of projects, but they don't complete anything, that's a problem. Because if they're not going to complete projects that they claim they care about, how do you know for certain that they're going to complete the project called marriage? Especially if you want to marry. If you don't want to marry, okay, that's different. But even if you are in a long-term cohabitation situation, if you got a partner who has a history of jumping from relationship to relationship, then how long was that pattern for him, and is he going to apply that pattern to your relationship with him? So if he's been in 2-year relationships for the majority of his life, can you expect him to stay with you 2 years? Okay, then that's really hard to plan. That's hard to plan a future with somebody who dips in and out of relationships, or who dips in and out of marriages. If a person has been married 3 or 4 times, They are the common denominator. What has been their process of addressing how and why they are the common denominator in their relationships? Are they hasty? Have they made hasty decisions? Did they jump into a relationship when they were 18 years old, 19 years old? Did they quit that relationship because things were not going their way? Were they really invested in the relationship, or were they only using it to get out of their parents' house? Did they really love the person? That's very important, because some people are very good at marrying and tolerating their partner until they can't do it anymore. That's why I'm always very concerned about people who've been together for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and then they decide to divorce. That's weird to me, that you give all that time to investing in that relationship and then you divorce. And it's not my place to judge or say anything, because I've never been married myself. And so I've never had to put in that kind of investment into a relationship, let alone a lifelong goal. But it is interesting to me that you would divorce. I mean, if you're going to go 25 years, why not go 26? If you're going to go 33 years, why not go 34? Because when people get together, a lot of times they get together out of convenience, and that somewhere they compromise and say, okay, I guess I'll go on ahead and stick out this relationship. But then somewhere they hit a brick wall in their life at that 30. It could be much earlier than that. I think people quit on relationships much earlier. Even if the relationship is 10 years old, I think they quit at the first or second year. But they go on ahead and put up with the relationship the next 8 or 9 years. And then at the 10th year, they're tired. They don't want to do it anymore. They're out. I don't think people get to the 30-year mark and say, now I want to leave. I think they wanted to leave much earlier. I give them the benefit of the doubt, 2 to 5 years. And instead of letting that person go so that person could go and find someone who would really love them and stay with them, they decided to hold on to that person because maybe they were not financially where they wanted to be. And so the other person had the finances, had the resources, and so I stick it out with him. But that's so interesting to me that even in that type of situation, you made love to somebody that you were not happy with. You cooked for someone that you felt like you had to tolerate. You laughed and joked and ate food, broke bread with someone that you really wanted to discard. It's interesting to me that people will stay in these relationships and they don't really want to be in them. That's heartbreaking. It's extremely heartbreaking in my eyes. And so, in my understanding. So, sitting at the dinner table, talking about these things, talking about how important it is to continue to stay in a relationship, and basically being in a relationship is actually just resolving problems. Life is about resolving problems. And so when you are hit with a particular problem in your relationship at the 2-year mark, um, what will be your strategy to resolve the problem? Because I was noticing one person, um, previous friend who was married for 2 years, and now he and that person are separated. And I just think to myself, why? Why in the world would you two separate? But it's so interesting to me that people would separate after 2 years. I don't know. It makes me do one of those big sighs, because you really do want people to work out whatever it is they need to work out so they can be together and continue to grow together. But someone is lacking in problem resolution skills. Someone decided to just leave, pack their bags and just leave and go on about their business, and another person decided to let that person do that. And so if you see that is happening a lot while you are sitting at the dinner table or having conversations, just think what would happen if you were under the pressure and stresses of marriage. the responsibilities of marriage, of having to care for the other person and take care of the other person. What if that person gets sick? Are you going to abandon that person? What if the person loses the job? Or are you going to kick that person out? So these types of questions are something that you need to discuss. Of course, you want to discuss finances. You want to discuss other types of areas of life, in terms of how you save money, how you manage money, what you think of money, what's your perception of money, do you understand the value of money, etc. That's oftentimes the most obvious thing that you need to consider. But you also want to talk about relationships, your family relationships, your family dynamic. Are you estranged from your family, or are you with your family? Or is your partner estranged from his family, or is he with your family? Does the mother-in-law or the future mother-in-law preoccupy herself with her son? Does she believe that she has a greater duty over his wife? There's this show that I see a lot of times on, I forget the network, but it's I Love a Mama's Boy or something like that. And in some cases, you can kind of understand how it's hard for the son to kind of choose his girlfriend over his mother. But you have some very hardcore situations where the mama has just she almost thinks she's the wife, and that it's more important for the son to put her first than the person he's going to marry. What sense does that make? Okay, I can't live like that, especially when it doesn't look like she's going to change her mind. She's not even trying to pretend to change her mind. She's basically saying this is the way it's going to be. I'm his mama. I come first. Okay, well, that's not going to work in a relationship. That's not going to work with a marriage. He might as well stay single, and you might as well go on ahead and create a plan to exit. Because if you want to have an early heart attack and live with bitterness and be angry and be frustrated and catch cancer because of all that stress, stay in that relationship then. But if you want to have peace in your life and hope for a husband who would put you first, or make you a priority, or have a duty to the relationship over a parent, then you exit that relationship and make room for the possibility of another. And that's why it's kind of hard to do, because you are scared to leave the comforts of the discomfort. As strange as I just said that, and it just came to mind, I didn't even plan it. You want to stay in that toxic, chaotic relationship so bad that it's so comforting. That discomfort that you feel as a result of their relationship is more of comfort to you than the unknown. Because if you leave one relationship, you have to put yourself back out there on the dating market. And you don't want to do that. So these are conversations that you want to have right before you have sex, and or if you've already had sex, at the dinner table. Because you still are not married yet. But then if you have gotten married, those conversations are going to have to be very firm, with some boundaries, because you can't divorce everybody. You divorce this partner and then you marry someone else and the same problem is there, and then you divorce that person. All you do is just keep leaving relationships unresolved. And so taking some time to think about this at the dinner table is very important. Do you think people are capable of sustaining stability? Sure. If you cut out the distractions, set boundaries, don't let people dictate who and what you're going to be, um, begin to address your people pleasing and volunteering spirit, and let people be the adults in their lives. Yes, people are capable of sustaining stability. But when you jump to raise your hand and volunteer your time, your money, your body, your finances to save them and to solve whatever problems they are having, you take the responsibility away from them to pursue their own stability. That at some point in their life, they're going to have to make pursuing stability a goal. And when you continue to take over, it goes back to the entitlement statement. When you continue to take over their life, you're basically parenting them like they are a child. And children always resist, they always rebel, they always ignore, they always abandon. Sometimes they can be treacherous, very, very disloyal. There's a number of things that they can be when you treat them like a child, like a toddler, and they always pout. They always fall out on the floor. They always manipulate and control. But when you let people be the adults they need to be in their lives, that's the problem that I had when I moved into man. I became the breadwinner in the situation and basically took over his life and didn't let him be the man that he needed to be. And let is a strong word. I shouldn't even use that word. But 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 in reflecting on the situation, I understand now that I was doing too much for him, that he never did what he needed to do for himself as an adult, that he still need to approach life as with an adult thinking, that I got to take care of myself, that I shouldn't move in with a woman. No man should move in with a woman, period. No man, because one thing about women, we're going to get it done. If we lose our place, if we lose our job, if we don't have the money, we're going to do whatever we got to do to go get it done. And sometimes we may have to move in with somebody, but we're going to keep a job and get it done. We're not going to stay with that person too long. And so with men, once you let a man move in with his woman, it switches the role. It's a big role reversal, and he's going to rebel like a child. But if you see that he's been an adult for so many years and he's had his own place the majority of the time that he's been an adult and kept a job and saved some money, doesn't have to be a lot, but he cares enough to do something. And even if he's kind of cheap and thrifty or whatever, he still has enough sense to sustain himself as an adult. That's something to take note of. Because why is it that men need to move in with a woman when they should have male friends that they should be able to move in with? When you don't see that happening, it is because they can't control the man. And it could be an ego situation, a man having to move in with another man. They don't want to do that, right? But that's telling that they can't move in with another man who's going to um, um, kick them in the pants, so to speak, and give them a talking to, and almost act like a father, maybe a father figure. When you don't see them doing that and they're running to a woman, that's telling, because then you have to wonder, is that their habit of running to women to solve their problems? So do you think people are capable of sustaining stability? It depends on a number of factors, especially what their family dynamic was. If in their family they had a mother or father who did drugs, got them kicked out, had to move in with their grandma or something like that, or the house just as it was just not stable, it was always chaotic, um, issues with it or whatever, then people usually bring over what they have been exposed to and what has been socially and emotionally and psychologically nurtured into them into the new environment. And they do that by jumping into a relationship to sort of solve whatever hurt they think they have from their immediate family dynamic. But you shouldn't jump into a relationship right when you get out of your family home. You need some time to live with yourself, maybe sometimes in solitude, isolation, but definitely in separation, where you get your own apartment and you can go in the way you want to go in. You can turn on the air conditioner the way you want to turn on the air conditioner. You're paying for the place, you keep a job, and that puts you on the road of stability, of pursuing stability. Now you have records of successes of staying in your own place, keeping a job, paying bills, etc. So that when you then decide to enter into a romantic relationship, you have a point of reference that you can use. Okay, I'm very much a stable person. I'm very much a capable person. This is what I've done. This is who I am. But when you find someone who has not done that, they have no real identity. They may have a name, they may be wearing clothes that sort of gives off what they think they what they believe they are, but they don't have any true identity in terms of being an adult. So yes, you can sustain stability, but it has to uh, be intentional. It has to be intentional that you have to be consciously aware that it is important for you to be an adult and sustain yourself as an adult. And then you have to be conscientious about perpetuating that idea that adults live as adults, manage themselves as adults. Um, Sometimes if they might struggle and have a setback, they may have to borrow some money or something like that. But for the most part, they are adults. So the last question, what are your present day financial concerns? How are you addressing those concerns? So of course, all parts of this, all areas of these questions represent individual, as I noted earlier, but present day financial concerns are important to address, because if you are a bad financial manager, it's going to eventually show up. It's one of those things that you can't lie about. It eventually is going to reveal itself. If you're the type of person who yells at everybody, who has to put people in their places or something like that, that's going to show up, because someone could easily trigger you and they don't even know that they're triggering you, right? If you're the type of person who gives a greater part of your money to a family member, that's going to show up. It's going to reveal itself. That's why if you have those types of financial concerns, then you should begin addressing them before you decide to get married, because you cannot take your finances and give them to your brother while you are married to your husband. Your brother is not your husband. And that's the thing about people. They think to themselves, well, I have every right to help my brother. I don't see nothing wrong with that. But your brother is not your husband. And how long have you actually been helping your brother? If you've been helping your brother with finances for 5+ years and he hasn't learned anything at all, or you haven't imparted any wisdom in him at all about financial management, that's not good. Because then you are going to get married, or you are going to get into a romantic relationship that's long term. You're going to have to make a decision between your husband and your brother, in the same way the son needs to make a decision between his mama and his wife, right? So if that's financial concerns are always predicated on the relationships that you have, but they can also be predicated on the types of debt you have. Student loans and property, that type of debt is really considered good debt. But if you have a string of credit cards and those are unpaid credit cards, you're going to have to address your relationship with credit cards. Maybe you are just not cut out for having credit cards. To me, I don't like having to pay the the balance at the end of the month. I think to myself, man, I could have this in my bank account. I could, keep this, but I've already used the credit cards. So I've made a decision. I made a decision about a few months back that I'm not going to um, have multiple credit cards. I'm going to probably keep one or two that are very significant, and then the others I'm just going to pay off and leave them alone, because I just don't like to have to pay that bill at the end of the month, even though I believe in it. The belief system is there. I believe in it. It's just that I think to myself, I need to have free cash. And once you pay the credit cards, that cash leaves your bank account into those credit cards. And so even though there is a benefit because it can improve your credit score, your payment history, your payment strategies can improve your credit score. And we definitely need to have, good credit in order to get things, in terms of like housing or something like that. But I just do not want to do that anymore. It's just, it wears on me. So that's a financial concern for me. I don't have a problem anymore with family members because I've set boundaries in that area, and it was very painful. It was extremely painful, and but I had to do it. So I don't have that issue anymore. But I still have not quite yet made my financial comeback. I lost my job during the recession. Um, I was only making money as a freelancer, just enough. Um, Later, I had to struggle with homelessness. Then I was able to get an apartment, and then I got evicted. So that's a financial concern. So my main financial concern before I even consider any romantic relationship is to overcome my financial setbacks. And that always includes credit card use, creating a true and sustainable savings plan, and making sure that no matter what, I can sustain myself financially as an adult. And so when you are thinking about present day financial concerns, think about them as individually. You need to take stock of where you are financially, where your gaps are, where, in terms of your knowledge base. Um, are you at the poverty level? You know, what will you do to dig yourself out of your current financial hole? Because if you don't get this addressed, if you don't start addressing these concerns, again, you're going to move them into the relationship, and it's going to affect the relationship. And finances is one of those areas where people tend to break up, and divorce because of money management. So those are your present day financial concerns. Take stock. No, conduct a gap assessment. A gap assessment is essentially where you are right now and where you want to be financially. And so you could apply that also to any other area of your life. If you visit my website, reginawhitefavors.com, and click the gap assessment tab, it gives you videos, it gives you worksheets, things like that that you could use to conduct your own gap assessment. So this is engaging in conversation. The book is Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships, part one of a three-part series, which is available on Amazon. You can visit my website, reginawhitefavors.com. Like, subscribe, and follow. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Just type in Regina White Favors. Thank you very much for listening.